One of the first decisions that you'll make in your pregnancy journey is where you actually want to give birth. And while that may seem like a very straightforward decision, there's actually a lot to consider, especially when it comes to advocating for yourself and ensuring that your birth preferences are respected. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith-Based Birthing Podcast. I'm your host, Lori, and today we're going to dive into a topic that's really close to my heart. Choosing the right birth setting for you. Not for what anybody else says, for you. So whether you're considering a home birth, a hospital birth, or a birth center, the key is to make sure that you are in the driver's seat. Now, keep in mind that I've had 4 births, 2 were in the hospital and 2 were at home. All 4 were very different with their own nuances, okay? So if you're feeling unsure about all the options that are out there, then this episode is for you. We're going to dig into each one a little bit more on future episodes. But for now, let's just get started with an overview, okay? So we've got 3 main choices here: home birth, hospital birth, and birthing centers. Each of these comes with its own set of pros and cons, and each one can look very, very different depending on who's attending your birth. So just because you pick a certain birth setting doesn't automatically mean that you'll get the kind of birth experience that you were hoping for. And let me tell you, not all midwives are cut from the same cloth. Not all OBs are cut from the same cloth. Not all labor and delivery nurses are cut from the same cloth. It matters that you understand this walking into whatever situation that you're walking into and whatever choice that you have for you. Okay, so let's start with home birth. Home birth can be an incredibly empowering option for women who want to be in control of their environment and have a more natural and hopefully physiological birth. Remember, natural birth and physiological birth are 2 very different things. Natural we refer to as a med-free birth. And just because that's the terminology that is, most people talk about and is accepted. And physiological birth is a completely undisturbed birth, okay? Where it's completely hands off. So with a home birth, you're in your space. You can move around freely. You eat what you want, labor how you want. It's your home, your rules. But here's the thing. Just because you choose a home birth doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have a hands-off, undisturbed birth experience. Not all midwives are completely on board with the idea of a fully physiological birth. Some may feel the need to help you along, whether that's by suggesting interventions or managing your birth, more than is actually needed. Some midwives have different ideas than you would think a midwife would have. And I know lots of midwives and I know lots of women who use midwives. And I'm just putting that out there for you to know and understand that there are differences across the board. Okay. Home birth is supposed to be about your choices and not necessarily about someone else managing that birth. So just keep that in mind and have those conversations with the midwife that you are interviewing. Okay, I'll leave that there for a minute. So if you're planning a home birth, it's crucial to interview the midwives thoroughly. Okay, ask them about their philosophy on birth. Do they trust the birth process? Are they comfortable letting you labor undisturbed as long as things are progressing safely? You've got to be very clear about what you want, and you need to find a midwife who aligns with that vision. I have heard stories of midwives in training who were training under a midwife, teaching childbirth classes, and she was literally teaching purple pushing. And if you don't know what that is, it's where they're teaching you to breathe in and count to 10 and breathe out while you're pushing. And it's like, no, that's not at all what you should be teaching for a home birth midwife. But anyway, I think the midwife actually corrected that, but that's what she was teaching. So advocating for yourself is still going to apply in these situations. Even in a home birth setting, you need to be prepared to speak up if something doesn't feel right. Okay. It's your body, it's your baby, it's your birth. So just keep that in mind. No one should be making decisions for you without your consent. All right. So let's talk hospital birth. For many women, hospitals just feel safer, and that's why they go there, because medical help is readily available if it's needed. And that's true. If there's an emergency, you've got all the resources you can need right there, quick access. You don't have to worry about it. But, the flip side is that hospitals come with their own set of routines and protocols and timelines. They're often more medicalized, which means you might face more interventions, continuous monitoring, laboring on your back, being encouraged to speed labor up with Pitocin. And here's the kicker. Just because you're in a hospital doesn't mean you can't advocate for the birth that you want. Like I said, I've had 2 hospital births, completely natural births, and I had to advocate for myself both times in those situations for things and against things that I wanted and didn't want. Okay. So, not all OBGYNs are the same. I've met OBs that were fantastic and supportive of what their patients wanted and patient rights. And I've met OBs who fought patients the entire way. Okay. Some will work with you. They'll listen to your birth preferences and honor your choices, and some won't. Okay. Others might be quick to suggest interventions and not be as supportive of a natural birth plan. If you're going the hospital route for whatever reason, whether that is because you feel safer with everything we just discussed, or maybe it's that you can't afford a home birth midwife, but you really want one, and there are ways around that, so we can talk about that later, but you need to know that it's crucial to find an OB who respects your wishes, and you need to know their record, because you can sit and you can talk to an OB all day long and they'll say, yes, I'm supportive, and yes, you got this. And then when it comes down to, week 39 and you're not getting anywhere, they're like, maybe we need to talk about induction. That happened to me. Just know that exists. And others will be like, all right, sure, you can go till 42 weeks and then we'll talk, whatever. But just because you're in a hospital doesn't mean that you have to give up a right to control your birth. Okay. And remember, just like with midwives, advocating for yourself in every situation is key. So make sure your birth plan is clear, and don't be afraid to speak up if things start to drift away from what you envisioned. Okay. So you can absolutely have a natural birth in a hospital setting. It just might take a bit more advocating. Next up, let's talk about birth centers. Birth centers are kind of like the middle ground between home and hospital. They're designed to provide a more natural, low intervention birth experience, but they also have medical resources available in case something comes up. So many birth centers are run by midwives, and they're typically more supportive of the idea of physiological birth. And so you can test that out, but not always. Okay. So you'll find that birth centers encourage things like freedom of movement, using birthing tubs, and letting labor progress without much interference. But just like with those home births, not all midwives at the birth centers have the same philosophy. So midwives at birth centers may still feel the need to help you through your birth, whether that's by suggesting going ahead and breaking your water or encouraging you to push before your body's ready. So even if you're choosing a birth center, it's important to have those conversations with your provider ahead of time. Make sure that they're on board with your vision for whatever you want. If that's an undisturbed physiological birth, make sure they're on board for that vision. If it's just that you want a natural birth, make sure they're on board for that vision. Advocating for yourself in a birth center is just as important as doing it anywhere else. You want to make sure your birth plan is respected. Let's talk a little bit more about advocating for yourself while we're here. No matter where you choose to give birth, whether it's at home, in a hospital, or in a birth center, the one constant that we've talked about in everything is that you're the one giving birth and your preferences matter. But here's the reality. Sometimes providers, whether they're midwives or OBGYNs, have a different view of what's best for you. Okay. They might think they're helping you, but what they're really doing is taking control away from you. That's why you have to know what you want for you, know what you know because you know it, not because somebody else handed it down to you. Have your convictions there, have your research, be able to speak up and advocate. This is why advocating for yourself is so crucial. So how do you do this? How do you advocate for yourself? Be clear. Be clear about your birth preferences. Have a written birth plan and make sure that everyone involved in your care knows what you want. Now, again, your birth plan is mainly for you and your support person, whether that's your spouse or a doula or whatever. That's who your birth plan is for mainly, so that you know what's going on and you know what you want and you can advocate for what you want, okay? This is especially important when you're in a setting where different staff might rotate in and out, like in a hospital. Like you want to put your birth plan on file in the hospital and you want to carry a copy with you, okay? When you go to labor, you want to do both. Second, don't be afraid to ask questions. If someone suggests an intervention, whether it's breaking your water, starting Pitocin, or anything else, ask why. It's a simple question. Just say, why would we want to do that? What's the reason behind it? What are the risks? What are the benefits? Sometimes just asking those questions can slow things down and give you the time that you need to make the best decision for yourself. And third, trust your instincts. You know your body better than anyone else. If something doesn't feel right, speak up. If you need more time, ask for it. And if you're feeling pressured, take a step back, take a deep breath, and remember, you're in charge of your birth. Pending any crazy health scares, anything that's going on outside of a normal, healthy labor process, you're in charge and you get to advocate for what you want and you get to ask questions about anything that's suggested otherwise, okay? So what's your big takeaway from today? You've got options. Whether you choose to birth at home, in a hospital, or at a birth center, the key is finding a provider who respects your wishes and being prepared to advocate for yourself. Not all midwives are the same. Not all OBs are the same. Not all doulas are the same. Just because you choose one setting over another doesn't mean you'll automatically get the birth experience that you want. It's all about preparation, communication, and you have to trust your instincts. So I hope today's episode has given you some clarity. And as you explore your options for your birth, I want you to remember this is your journey, okay? You have the right to make decisions that align with what's best for you and your baby. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic day again. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you haven't joined our faith-based birthing community on Facebook, please go over and do that. We're here to support you through this amazing and sometimes challenging, but always beautiful journey. And so go join faith-based birthing. I think it's faith-based birthing, home birth, hospital birth, natural birth. I don't remember how it's put in there, but go join that community and check out our YouTube channel. And if you want to go more in depth with how you prepare for birth on a spiritual level and understand not only the spiritual side of things, but the scientific side of things behind birth, then our book, Restoring Birth, is out. And we also have courses and mentoring that you can be part of. So I hope you have a fantastic day. And until next time, I'll see you later. Be blessed.